Okay, more on hand-led versus poi-led here. Today I want to talk about weaving, specifically isolated weaving. So, last video I talked about isolations and how when we start doing hand-led or poi-led isolations, the difference that kind of comes out of the center rotation gets a little screwy. But I want to apply this now to isolated weaving. So for these isolations, when we keep the isolations steady on one side, obviously if our isolations are perfect, which, there's a center point right here that never changes, neither the hand nor the poi is leading. But when we take, a weave from one plane to the next, or push it through the plane, however you want to call it, when we isolate it, and we travel from one side to the other, since the phase offset of the poi with respect to the hand is 180, meaning that my hand is always going to be pointing in one direction, so to speak, and my poi will be in the other direction. This is contrasted to, say, like a little mini extension, where if we take a freeze frame, my hand is pointed in this direction, my poi is also pointed in that direction. The phase offset becomes 180 degrees whenever you get to isolation, which Charlie and I just had a conversation about. So, where is it going with this? So, weaving, if you're isolating your weave, let's say if you're not isolating your weave, we're just going from side to side like this. It's kind of analogous to a previous video I did on knot Coleman's, and how when we do this inside pass, whenever it's not isolated, there's no hand leading or poi leading, because the poi is just kind of coming up through this negative space at the same time as the hand. And then I kind of talked a little bit about how when we isolate it, that's when we get these poi-led or hand-led inversions, probably better to say poi-led or hand-led isolations. So, what I'm getting at now with isolated weaves, when we start isolating it, due to the phase offset of the poi with respect to the hand, that means that as we travel from one side to the other, as we do in weaving, we're just kind of moving orthogonally along one plane, but specifically between this plane and this plane, typically with your basic weave, being, again, that the phase offset is 180, and we're isolating, there's going to be either the hand leading this isolation across, or we can make the poi lead that travel across. So, that's a concept. Now, how can it apply? So, when the easiest, isolated weave, in my opinion, I have this tendency to do this sort of hand-led Lovelace type thing, with my arms sort of crossed, and then my hand dragging over my wrist on each side, which sort of helps the isolation for me. So I was thinking about it, so that's your 3-beat weave right here that I'm just doing an isolated version of. And I was noticing that, yes, I'm doing this hand-led isolation, hand-led isolation, hand-led isolation, hand-led isolation. And then I noticed that both of my hands are doing the hand-led, so, from this side, it's hand-led, 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 hand-led. Just being that when we're traveling from one side to the other, my hand is the first one to enter this middle space between these two side planes. So it's like hand, and then the poi follows. Hand, and then the poi follows. Again, if I wasn't isolating, there's no way for the hand or the poi to be that first one to get there. Rashi was pointing out that perhaps this is really just a variable of time. Probably true, is true actually, but I think that the whole hand-led and poi-led denotation kind of is a cool way to describe it and visualize it. So what Rashi's getting at, so here, think about, it really just depends on at what point do I traverse to the other side, at what point is the poi along its path. If it's I don't even know how to describe it. If it's over here, maybe back here, depending on where the cross point is. I don't know. Anyways, I like to think about it as the hand leading across and the poi following. But more about that. So I was doing these hand-led 3-beat weave. So I'm just doing an isolated 3-beat weave, like such. But I'm doing these hand-led isolations from side to side. And I thought, oh, can I do it with a poi-led isolation? Feels a little bit more weird, but certainly can. So that would be like doing the poi-led first. Kind of like the feeling you get when you do a stall chaser. The poi gets ahead of you. So, let's see, so it's like poi-led, poi-led. Not very good at it because I literally just started thinking about it, but you know, point being it's possible. But furthermore, so this is 3-beat weave, right? And then I thought about inverting 5-beat weaves, or not inverting rather, but isolating 5-beat weaves. And the tendency is instead to do a poi-led isolation. Reason being, we're twisting up our arms here. So that point when we get to arms being twisted up like this, it's a lot easier. It just sets you up for a poi-led isolation because your hand's already twisted up, the poi's swinging around, and you need to flip the planes over to this side to unwind, as you do in a 5-beat weave. So when your arm's already twisted up and you're isolating, again that phase offset, one's going to have to travel there first. So it's just easier for the poi to traverse first. So if you try to notice when I'm doing an isolated 5-beat, I'm doing poi-led isolations across. Right? Okay, so furthermore, then I was like, alright, so 5-beat isolated weaves uses these poi-led isolations. Can I do that with a hand-led? So in order to do that, you have to sort of stretch it a little bit further, you know, like the poi comes over. At this point, the poi would be easier to do a poi-led isolation across from your 2 spin planes on the side, right? So here's the poi-led. But in order to do a hand-led, you have to let time, again, Arashi's right, you have to wait a little bit, and then move your hand across to the other side, and it kind of like gets this sort of, that sort of motion. Again, literally just played with this, so it will look something like that. Anyways, yeah, just kind of a cool little insight I got just now, so just sharing.